Hello and welcome to episode 527 of Fergo and the Freak. I'm that bloke from Rugby League Project, Andrew Ferguson. You can find me on Twitter at AndrewRLP. Join me as always is the glorious LeagueFreak. You can also find on Twitter at LeagueFreak. How you going there, mate?
I'm going very well, Andrew. Happy birthday for a couple of days ago now.
Yesterday.
Yeah, but by the time people hear this, it'll be a couple of days ago.
Well, that's true. Well, now they don't know what day it is.
Yeah, exactly. But happy birthday. What's it like? Your 57th birthday? What did you get up to?
Oh, I yelled at some lefty woke people on the buses or something. I don't know. What am I supposed to do? I'm a boomer now.
Yeah, exactly. Calling from a rotary phone.
Well, yeah, I had to do that. I had to dial in.
Yep.
How does this newfangled thing work again?
Exactly.
Oh, you dial it all. Do you have to push it all the way back around as well? Oh no, it does it automatically. Well, isn't the wacky do the things you can do these days? Put man on the moon and we can ring people on a fancy rotary phone.
Exactly, but only one of them was faked.
Are you telling me the rotary phone is fake?
Yes.
Yes. So yeah, I do apologise. I do sound like I'm calling back from when I had my 31st birthday. It was a while ago.
Andrew got a new computer that is fantastic, unless you need it to work.
No, my computer is fine. This is the internet. So yeah, this is a hi Telstra. Happy for you to be a sponsor. Call me if you can get through.
I remember when they went public and I bought shares and the share price was about $3. And if you look right now, the share price is about $3. I got rid of them shares though. I sold them and bought a PlayStation 2 from memory.
That seems fair.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, the PlayStation 2 would be worth more than the shares would have been worth.
Even now.
Yeah.
Oh, that is so true. Man, that was a while back. You must have been about, I don't know, 35 or so when that happened.
Fuck you. That was funny. I remember when I bought them and I was like, all right, here we go. And nothing happened. And man, as I said, I would have lost money basically if you take in inflation. So yeah, I'm glad I sold them. You never regret when you've bought yourself something. That's what I've always found. Hey, like you never.
This is pretty fair.
Yeah. Anyway, we're a rugby league podcast. A lot happening in the league.
Were we?
Yeah, we were.
Okay.
One of the big stories that's happening over the last week or so is Lockie Galvin, whose manager, Isaac Moses, who's very popular across the rugby league landscape. He's been pushing for him to get a release from the West Tigers for basically next year, I think it is. And because he wants to go somewhere else. Now, the speculation about where he wants to go has been all over the place. One of the ones sounded out was Penrith. Another one is the Roosters. But it's basically anywhere that has cap space. Now, Shane Richardson had gone over to the UK and he was trying to offload players that were under contract for the West Tigers. And he's come back and he said, we're not going to let Galvin out of his contract. We'll upgrade his contract and extend it, but we're not letting him out of his contract. And it's a real interesting situation because I can see a lot of reason from every single side of it. I know a lot of people have said that, like, he's only played like 10 first grade games and it's pretty outrageous that he wants a release so he can get money elsewhere. But I can also see if you're a young dude and you look at how things have panned out for the West Tigers over the last 20 years, and I bet if you ask James Tedesco if he ever regrets his move, he would say no. And the fact that he could get more money and the fact that he's looked really good in first grade and the fact that he might walk into a Panthers team that's ready to rock and roll for the next 5 or 6 years as a top contender, or the Roosters where they'll give him heaps of money straight off the bat. Like, I can see it from his point of view. I can see it from the Tigers' point of view, not wanting to lose a young player when they've just blooded him in first grade. But at the same time, there is a bit of hypocrisy there from the Tigers that they don't want to release him, but at the same time, they're trying to get out from contracts that they've already signed with players. So it's a real complex situation, funnily enough.
See, I don't think it is.
Why not?
Because point out to me any CEO that hasn't tried to hang on to some player while they're trying to dump others.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Every CEO does it every single year.
Yeah.
So that's all just part and parcel. That is the game.
Yeah.
The issue I have is, like you, I get why he wants to look around.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is with such few games, and here's the thing, okay, it's easy to be a tasty sandwich when all you've got around you is turds.
That's true.
Right? That's a pretty nasty thing to say. Tigers haven't been that bad, but it's easy to look good in a team that's going poorly. All you got to do is play better than everybody else and be consistent. Yeah. The problem he's got is if he goes to another club that is much better performing, like remarkably better performing, and he doesn't produce the same quality, he's not as consistent, and then he gets dropped. It's not dropped for a little bit. It's dropped. They go, oh, you're only 18 or 19 years old. We're going to drop you for a year or two and see if you can get up to NRL level, and then you're gone.
Mm-hmm.
And it's things like this where I always get a little cringy, I guess, when any player from any club who's a teenager who has a great start to their NRL career immediately goes, right, now I've got to go and find all the big cash. Because the problem you get is if you don't back it up and start becoming consistent, then you do get dumped and you do get forgotten and you never come back.
Yeah.
And that's a very common occurrence. I think for Galvin, because he's still so goddamn young, man, you don't need to go looking for new contracts just yet. You just don't. Like, stay at the Tigers for 2 years, 3 years if you know, at maximum. But prove to every team out there that you can play consistently good footy. Because at the moment, if he goes out and he goes and tests the market now, you know, he goes to Penrith or the Roosters because they're suggesting those two because they got all the money at the moment. They'll always be the one the media throw out there.
Mm.
But they're probably going to offer him what? Maximum 450, 500K, maybe 600?
Yeah, it's not going to be. They don't need him as a centerpiece at all. Like he is. Like if you look at Penrith, they've got Jack Cole, who is also
he's going to be a depth. He's going to be a depth player.
Yeah. Like he's at the very least he's in a two-way fight with a good 5'8", and they're just the two guys that are there. That would be him and Cole now, let alone all of the juniors that come through Penrith ranks. Like there was a point where Dane Laurie was the Panthers fullback, and there was him and Matt Burton and Dylan Edwards, and like it just was a case where Dylan Edwards ended up being the guy that was in the place when everything really started getting rolling, and so they stuck with him. Like you don't know what the future holds. So yeah, I like at the Tigers, Galvin is seen as a very big part of their future, and it's working out for him right now. And I kind of agree with you to a point where, like, if he leaves, you just don't know what the future holds. Could turn out great for him, but it could also turn out really poorly for him too. You never know.
That's right. And so I think if he was to get, say, if we blue sky think this thing for him, okay, and he gets offered 600K to leave the club now, but if he plays 2 to 3 consistently solid seasons for the Tigers and they start to improve and then he tests the market, how many clubs are going to be offering him $1 million a year?
Yeah, there'll be a number of them.
And that's the thing, man. Take the hit for 2 seasons. And the Tigers aren't going to lowball him on an offer. They've offloaded quite a few players, so they've got enough money to upgrade him substantially.
Yeah.
So you're not going to be underpaid or duped or anything like that. Take the money while it might be a little bit lower, but prove that you deserve those huge contracts, and then test the market. Then that's the smart play. Okay, and this is not coming from me wanting to keep him at the Tigers. I'd love for him to stay at the Tigers, but you can't force a player to stay somewhere. This is purely me. If I was his manager and I actually had a soul and a brain, and I wasn't out there just trying to get the maximum value so that I could rip him off and take my fee out of him.
Yep.
I'd say, mate, long term, stay here till you're 20, right? Prove that you deserve a big contract. If you get $1 million deal and you can keep yourself fit, healthy, stay out of troubles, that sort of thing, and keep playing good footy, that's $10 million you're going to earn by the time you're 30.
Mm-hmm.
And you won't be retired by then either. You could probably earn more after that.
Mm-hmm.
So why the rush, fella? Why? No one's going to give you $1 million tomorrow, okay? So why rush? There's just no need.
I think there's definitely a thing to do. I mean, his manager has always had these issues with players where, like, they never seem to be content. And it's not so much from the player, it's from the manager. And they can sign a long-term deal, but every single year of that deal, they want more money, or they want to leave, or they want to go to rugby union, or whatever, whatever it is. And it always is an issue that swirls around this player manager. And I think it's disruptive for players. And we've seen some clubs say, we're not going to deal with this player manager again, which I think is crap. I think that if for the right player, any club would sign whoever. They wouldn't care who the manager is. But I think that this sort of disruption, it's the last thing this young dude needs right now.
Exactly. And hey, it's one thing to say that he's in good form and he's been really good, but at the same time, Tigers have lost their last 10 straight games.
Yeah.
And the last 2 by quite significant margins. And he has been dropped, not because of bad form, but because Benji wants to give him a rest, and that's fine. He also wants to try out a few other players and try a few things and shuffle things up, because that's what coaches tend to do when they've lost 10 games in a row.
Yeah.
But
and there does come a point where, like, if you lose enough games in a row and enough games badly, you basically have to get rid of everyone, whether you think you've got building blocks or not, because bad habits kick in. And I think the Bulldogs have been a pretty good example of that, where you look at someone like Alamotti. They got rid of him. He's playing pretty well for the Panthers, but you still see things in his game that are real bad habits he has. And the Panthers are trying to get that out of his game as quickly as they can, because he's basically going to be their starting centre for the rest of the year. But you can't have a group of players that are all losing massive amounts of games and then go through your lineup and say, oh, yeah, but he's good and he's good and he's good and he's good, and we're keeping him and him and him, because it's just you're going to keep losing. At some point you do have to just get rid of everyone and start again. And yeah, so I think he's a handy young player, but he's playing about as good as a young 5'8" can play after 10 whole games. But man, this isn't the time, man. I mean, he should be thinking, I'm going to try and keep my place in first grade. I think at most other clubs, he would just be fighting that battle, whereas at the West Tigers, it's a little bit easier because of the lack of talent that they do have in the whole squad. So, but yeah, this is just what he doesn't need. This is a big spotlight on him and a lot of pressure, and he's played 10 games.
I was going to say, the thing he's going to have coming up soon is competition for that spot, because Adam Dewey is he's back from his horrible injury.
Yep.
I see he's been named on the extended bench.
Yep.
And he's not going to come back brilliant. He's been off for a year, so he's going to take a few weeks to get himself up to speed at the NRL level.
Yeah.
But he is a tried and tested player at the NRL level. And while he may not have the skills that Galvin has, the one thing I'll give Dewey that not a lot of halves that have been at the Tigers have ever had is he's got a bit of mongrel about him in the sense that he doesn't give up on a play. He doesn't give up on his team on trying to score points. He's not one of those blokes who drops his head and gives up. He's a genuine battler. He's a fighter. And Galvin has at times this year gone missing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not something you can accuse Dewey of. Sometimes, look, it's not always a good thing, because sometimes Dewey will overplay his hand or get too involved in a play. But it means that he is actively in there trying. He's not running away or going quiet. He's still trying. And it's easier to coach, being too involved in a play out of a player than trying to get someone involved in a play when their form's down a bit and their instinct is to just go hiding a little.
So I would pick Galvin every day of the week over Dewey.
I'm not questioning that. It's more about the fact that it's the fight in him, okay? And this is what you need when you're in a team that is struggling to get wins. You can't have players who will go missing just because they're losing again. You need those players who are going to fight. When you've got a team that's successful and winning, then you need a different type of player. And Adam Dewey is more suited to the West Tigers and their culture and what they need to try and improve than he is to what the Panthers are at the moment. You know what I mean? You don't need an Adam Dewey at Penrith. No. You don't need that bloke who's going to fight and be lacking in skill, but have more of that fight and whatnot. You don't need that. You do need the finesse in the halves there because everything else is set in place.
Yeah.
So Galvin would be better suited to Penrith out of the two.
So the thing for me that I think about is next year he's got Luai turning up. And Luai's a 5'8". Like, he can definitely play halfback, but his best instinct is when he runs the ball directly. And that's a 5'8". And so how will that work with Galvin? And that to me is the question that the West Tigers will have answered by pretty early on next year, I reckon. Probably about this time next year, I would say, right?
Here's the thing, I reckon, is Galvin, I'm pretty sure in his lower grades, was playing in the back row.
Well, yeah, that's what I was thinking. Maybe he'll end up as a lock because he's a big dude. As a kid, he's got a pretty good frame on him.
Well, what they could do is move him to centre.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, let's be honest. I saw today that the Tigers lost the centre to the Panthers.
Yep. Yeah, young bloke.
So he could probably play at centre. So you can still get the maximum out of his ball play. He does tend to be on the left-hand side of the field an awful lot. Mm-hmm. So he could still form a very good combination with Luai on that side.
Yeah.
Which would be very, very good.
Yeah.
And you could keep Luai at 6. And I wouldn't be surprised if they consider moving Coruscant to halfback. Just to take that defensive workload off him, but it would also help shore up the defence just on the edge of the ruck where he's likely to be defending there. Because I think they've got, is it Fainu, young fella? They're testing him out at, Latu Fainu. He's only 19. They're going to give him a go at starting at hooker this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So that might be a long-term option in the future is Galvin at centre. And this is me thinking, but what would probably work a bit better? You have Galvin at centre, have Luai and Coruscant in the halves, and Fainu at hooker.
To me, that sounds like a plan I would go with if I was the West Tigers. How do you sell that to Galvin, though? Like, if Galvin, obviously there's an issue there, and as I said, I think it's pushed by his manager.
I know it's to a player who starts out in the halves, it sounds like a downgrade.
Yeah.
But you're just saying to him, mate, this is part of what we see as the development of your game.
I'd say look at Matt Burton. I'd say we're giving you the Matt Burton treatment.
Absolutely. And also looking forward, we see Luai moving into the halfback role in the future. And while he's still here, so that means that the 5'8" role is going to come available. We just want to have you one season at centre. You will be the first pick centre every week. You're not going to get that guaranteed any club you go to elsewhere, being one of the first picks. This is going to help with your defensive reads. You're going to form a good combination on the left side with Luai, which is going to be very helpful for you when you move into the halves and he goes to halfback. You're still going to be on the left side. You see? So you're still going to have all those combinations with everyone outside of Luai. It's going to work in your favour, and it's going to help with your defensive technique, which is going to be also very important to the side, because that's the one thing Benji had been doing a lot of work on. I know it seems a bit weird given that they've conceded 98 points in the last 2 weeks. But aside from that, defensively, they're still better than the last 4 seasons.
Yeah, I agree.
So he is working on that first, the structures first, the techniques first, and for the most part, it has been working pretty well. So I think that's long term. It shows that we're looking at developing you very quickly, but in all the right areas, so that when we move you back into the halves, and there's only going to be after 1 season, you are going to be the most well-rounded performer we could ever possibly think of as the number 6. And Benji could say, you're going to be the best 6 this club's ever had. Imagine hearing that from Benji Marshall.
At the same time, part of me wonders if you just think to yourself, we don't need this. We don't need this hassle. Like, because this is going to be an ongoing thing. It's going to be the same sort of thing that they had with Mitch Moses. It's going to be an ongoing, like, you're lucky to have me. I want to leave, but
Well,
you better pay me. And I think that no club needs that. And sometimes you're just better off saying, see you later. We'll deal with someone that actually wants to be here.
No, and look, there's a fair amount of common sense and logic to that. Yeah. And to be honest, he's lucked out in one sense, and that is Tigers aren't going to be looking for a number 6, are they?
Mm.
They're pretty well set in that area for next year.
Yeah.
And for several years afterwards.
Yeah.
So, if he wants to carry on, the Tigers will just part ways with him. But I'm not too sure how much of what's been said has come from him. Some of it has. There's talk that he wasn't very happy after the Dragons game and how poorly they performed there, and then hearing he was going to get dropped this week.
Mm.
And there was rumours that he wanted out. People were saying, how did that leak get out of the club? And I went, I'll tell you how. He said that to his manager, and the manager's leaked it.
Exactly. And
nothing else has been coming out of the club.
And do you need that? Like
No.
11 games ago, we didn't know who this young kid was, right? So it's not like the whole future was planned around him. And he's played really, really well. He has. He's been great. But, yeah, there's just part of me that thinks, like, we don't need this at the club right now, especially where we're at. Let's get rid of this kid. We've got one of the best in the game that's going to fill his role next year, who is settled, who is actually looking forward to it, and he's still talked all week about the challenge ahead and how he's looking forward to playing for the Tigers and stuff in Luai I'm talking about. So moving on, no one's even going to think of Galvin if they move him on next year, except for people in the media wherever Galvin ends up. But there would be a part of it that would just be like, let's just not have a distraction here while we're trying to do something much bigger. And honestly, part of me would lean towards that. Part of me would lean towards like, okay, go and get a better deal elsewhere. There's your contract. Tell it torn up for you. That's what you wanted. See you later. But I would do it sooner rather than later. Like I would be like, oh, you want to leave? Well, we'll release you right now. How about that?
And that's the thing is that he actually has to have a club that's willing to take him on.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all well and good for, the Roosters and the Panthers to be thrown out there because they've got a ton of money in the salary cap available. Doesn't mean they're interested.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? And if they're not interested, then where are you going to go?
Yeah, outside of that, I mean, it's like the Dragons could always go some talent. After that, like, I mean, everywhere else is just kind of set. Like even the Seagulls, I guess Newcastle would always go a halfback or a half. I mean, and yeah, I mean, everyone else is kind of set for 5/8.
Pretty much. And that's the thing. If they're going to buy him, he's going to be a depth player, so he's going to get a lot less game time than what he's getting at the moment. And the one thing that helps drive up your price as a player is game time.
Yeah. Look at Cole. Look at Jack Cole at the Panthers. Right? They've kind of pushed him into the starting side whenever Luai or Cleary has not been there. And at times I was like, I don't know. From the get-go, he was definitely the sort of guy that got the ball, ran it at the line, which is a really good sign. But in the last couple of weeks, there's been extra things that you've seen from his defence is starting to really solidify, which is one thing. And he's starting to use his ability to ball run and the players around him's ball running ability to start to do some things with his passing game. And so his stocks have gone up a lot in just the last couple of weeks. And it's just having the runs out there, getting out there, playing footy, and so, and yeah, like these guys, if you get an opportunity, you got to take it and you got to make it your own. You don't like get an opportunity and then say, all right, where's the next opportunity? You haven't fucking grabbed this one yet, man. So yeah, if I was the West Tigers, I would call his bluff. I'd say, listen, and he's a kid, right? This isn't about him. It's about his overall management of his career. I would say to his management, listen, if you want to release, we will release him immediately for you so he can go and further his career and see what happens. And the worst that happens is you don't have to deal with this issue going forward. You got a 5'8" that's going to be at least a 3-time premiership winner. And when he turns up next year, it's kind of a no-lose situation for the West Tigers. And I think they should treat it more like that.
Yeah. Look, I wouldn't be surprised if that's kind of what happens. I think Richardson will come out. He'll offer him a fair and reasonable contract upgrade. It won't be overs. I don't see the club going out doing massive overs for anybody anymore because they are in the process of rebuilding and fixing things up. So they know that if they're paying overs for someone, then it means that person has come for the money, not for the rebuild. So they'll offer him a reasonable amount. If he's not happy with it, they'll say, well, mate, that's what we're going to offer you. If you don't want it, then we're not going to re-sign you. So you need to find another club. Otherwise, you're not going to be here.
Yep, 100%.
And that'll be what it is. I don't see Richardson as, and I mean, I'll have to have a look back, but I don't remember him being the sort of guy that goes back and forth on a player and counters and counter offers and stuff until he gets what he wants. If he doesn't get it the first time around, it's done then.
Yeah.
He just moves on. But yeah, as we mentioned before, West Tigers centre Asu Kepawawa has been released immediately to go to Penrith, I believe, wasn't it?
Yeah, there's already pictures of him training with the club, and they released a player. The Panthers released a player that went to the Melbourne Storm. One of their lower graders went to the Storm. So when the Panthers and Storm make a move, I just automatically think, well, that's a great move for that club. And so I don't know a great deal about either of the players that moved, but, if they bring on players that have moved, it's like, I bet it's a good move for both of them. Like, if we saw both of them become first graders, I wouldn't be shocked. So we'll see how that pans out. But they're also both teams that are looking at getting depth for their premiership runs. It's not like they're looking for somebody that's the next superstar all the time. That's just impossible. Sometimes, and Alamotti is a great example of it, where you get in a guy that is just a solid first grader that you might be able to do something with and maybe polish his game a little bit. And the Storm and the Panthers, I think, are both in that sort of mode.
Yeah. Kepawawa he's a pretty handy centre. Good size, good versatility, especially off both feet. He's got a decent enough passing game. Defensively does need a bit of work, but you can't go to a better place to help your defence than the Panthers. So,
yeah.
He'll start out as, I dare say, like one of your first or second choice backups at centre.
Yeah.
Plenty of potential in him to get a lot better. He just doesn't get much ball at the Tigers at the moment because they're playing a pretty simple sort of structure in attack. understandably, because it's not what they're focusing on. They're trying to keep the points down, so to speak. So I think it's a pretty good pickup by the Panthers.
Yeah, and they needed another backup centre because Talon May. It looks like they're going to actually try and get rid of him, get out of their contract there. So they need somebody there for their run into the finals in case one of their starting centres in Alamotti or Tungor gets injured. So, and they got a salary cap, a little bit of salary cap relief out of the NRL because May is under the no fault stand down clause. So they got some salary cap relief out of that, and that's what they used to pick him up. So it's the Panthers do really good business on those sorts of players, which is interesting.
I'll tell you what, too, they'll have got Kepaoa for less than what they recently re-signed May for.
Oh yeah, so much less.
And you're not getting immensely less out of a player either. So it's a pretty smart pickup for them.
Yeah, and I dare say you're probably getting less issues as well.
Well, yes.
So it's interesting if they do decide to sack May, they're going to have even more money available. And when you look at their lineup that they've got for next year, if they sign nobody, it's still really, really good, and they've got heaps of money available. Like if you lined it up for next year and they don't get another extra player added to their lineup, and they lose all of these guys that like in May, for instance, and Fisher Harris and all that, like they're still at the very worst case scenario a top 6 side next year, but they've got all of this money to spend. And we've seen they sign guys, they've been very much like Melbourne have been over the last only 20 years or so, where they'll sign a guy that is like a lower grader from Newcastle, and all of a sudden he's like an extremely important piece in a premiership winning team and a like defensive powerhouse. And they've been extremely good at that. And you and me have talked about the sorts of players that they have targeted. And it's really interesting how Penrith have gone about it.
Now, there have been a few other signings. I've just had a look on the NRL website.
Mm-hmm.
The Titans have made a signing.
I saw.
They've signed the Wallabies fly half, Carter Gordon, for 2025 and 2026. He's played 8 times for the Wallabies.
I don't watch rugby union because I'm not, brain damaged. So I like my sport to be entertaining. I'm not very big on going to sporting events and eating stinky cheese and drinking wine. So I have no idea who this guy is. I know I saw a picture of him. He has a rugby league mullet, this guy. Like if you saw him walking down the street, you would say, oh, he's got to be a rugby league fan because of that mullet.
Well, I've got a quote from him here.
Yep.
I'm excited with the direction that rugby league is taking and the positive feeling around the game. At 23, I feel like I had to take this opportunity now. I'm under no illusions and understand that this will be a massive challenge.
That sounds like it was written by a manager, hey?
It does a little bit. Although, he's probably come from a private school, so he probably does speak like that.
Probably. It's like when you see an NRL player and they go over to England and they say, I can't wait to play rugby with the world famous Lee Centurions. And you're like, no one talks like that. This is the fucking club manager's written that for him.
Manly have signed Nathan Brown, not the coach, to a contract extension through to the end of 2026.
Yeah, Manly's fucking stupid, hey?
I think I'm mad. Roosters have re-signed Junior Pauga, who used to be a West Tigers back.
Mm-hmm.
The Dolphins have signed Tavita Pangai Jr.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. He's at his best, he's fantastic. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
It's one of those Hail Mary signings, I reckon. You don't see Wayne Bennett make too many of those, but it'll be interesting.
At the same time,
you must think he's going to get him sorted.
I don't think Wayne Bennett would have signed him. I think that it would have been Christian Wolf because he's the one that's going to have to. he's the one that's going to have to coach him next year.
Yeah, that's true.
So look, he did everything you could have wanted for him when he moved to the Panthers for that half season stint. It's all about the club for him, I think. I think if he goes to the right club and he's in the right environment, he'll be a really solid addition. But in the wrong place, it just falls apart for him, unfortunately.
This is true. Now, Hull FC have signed Knights forward Jed Cartwright immediately.
Yeah.
So that should see Hull get off the bottom of the ladder.
Yeah. Look, he could walk into this team and be the best player. They're terrible.
Hull have they also signed his dad, John Cartwright, to be their coach for next year?
Yeah. But it's not nepotism. There's no nepotism.
No, that'll work out fine.
Yeah.
Tyrrell Sloan has signed a contract extension with the Dragons, and Jason Saab has done similar with Manly.
Yes, and Jaden Sullivan has signed for Salford City Red Devils for, I think it's like a 4-year deal. That's what the Tigers and Salford have worked out together, but he hasn't signed off on it yet. So we'll see how it works out. But that's the deal that's been floated out there. And honestly, haven't seen him play footy this year. I think that might be a good move for him. I think he needs to learn the craft at a lower level.
And and West Tigers have also let Jake Simpkin go to Manly, effective immediately. So the Tigers are shedding a bunch of players, and fair enough too.
Yep.
They needed to.
Yep.
There's one that they really need to get rid of.
Who? Oh,
yeah.
He'll go. I think
they signed him until 2026. That feels like the punishment that the club got handed over from when the hat stand and the spud left.
By the way,
that was their final fucking grenade they threw in the door. Boom here.
You might not have seen this. The hat stand and the spud, they just bought 25% of the Newcastle Jets soccer club.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sorry, Newcastle, your team shit. It's gonna collapse.
They're fucked, hey? Yeah. So I felt very sorry for their fans when I heard that.
I thought you were going to say they bought a 25% share in the Melbourne Rebels.
Oh, far out. So yeah, that's interesting. I tell you, some news that's come out today is that this is a circus, but I think it's a good circus for rugby league to be having. It seems that now the 18th team will not be PNG, that they'll give PNG a little bit more time to get ready, and that the 18th team will now be a Perth-based team in the NRL, and that the Newtown Jets are really firming very, very, very much to have a partnership with that team rather than the North Sydney Bears. And it made me think about why that is a much more palatable outcome, because the Bears thing, it just makes me feel sick that Perth would be stuck with that. But if it was the Perth Jets and Perth Rugby League fans were all for it, I'd be all for that as well. And it made me think, like, why is that? Why have I got those two different stances? And it's because of the entitlement of the North Sydney Bears. Whereas where the Newtown Jets have always been like, okay, this is our level. We know our level isn't first grade. It's New South Wales Cup. We're going to put on a interesting game day. We're going to sort of aim for this funny sort of like a suburban environment, a throwback sort of environment for our game day experience. And that's it. And they've never said, oh, we really want an NRL club or blah, 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 blah. Or you'll be stuffed without us, or we've got 20 million members and stuff like that, like North Sydney's done. And I think they've always
embraced the good things about the past.
Yeah.
Like not only play in the fucking mud and, bloody bring back the biff and all that sort of garbage. No, none of that. the actual fun family day out at the footy sort of thing. That's what they've brought back to the game.
Yeah, and if they didn't get the license, they'd be like, okay, that's all right. Whereas I feel as though the North Sydney Bears will be like, well, that's North Sydney dead in rugby league, which they've been saying for the last 20 years, while they're standing on their own grave site. But at the same time, I just want the people of Perth to get a rugby league team that's their own, that they can be proud of, that they can call whatever they want. A lot of really interesting suggestions. You and me are very high on calling them the Quackers. We have been for years now, I think.
That has to be first and foremost.
Has to be. Just has to be. It's just a layup. Easy, right?
Absolutely. I do have a question.
Yes.
Not about the Quackers, though. There's no questions there. That thing's rock solid.
Yes.
Have the Sharks made a comment yet? And I raise this because Newtown are affiliated with the Sharks at the moment. They're the Sharks' lower grade team.
I haven't seen anything from the Sharks, no.
Because the problem you might end up getting is if this goes ahead and the Newtown affiliation with the West Australia team gets up, you might end up with North Sydney having to be the feeder club for the Sharks.
That's interesting, hey?
It would be interesting.
I saw that the Sharks...
not exactly close by or helpful in any way, having to go across the harbour to play games.
No, it's almost a bit quicker to fly to Western Australia.
It probably would be.
But yeah, it's an interesting one. I really hope. I saw a lot of suggestions about calling the West Australia teams, just have like 3 teams joined together and have them called the Bear Jets or the Jet Bears, or the Drop Bears was another one that was suggested to me.
I actually just realised now the best mascot for them.
But what?
Because it ties in with Australian animals.
Yes.
And all the massive fucking holes that have been dug in WA through all the mining. And call them the Wombats.
Oh yeah, you could call them the Wombats.
I think if we're not getting Quackers, then we're going to go Wombats.
Do they have Wombats over there?
Oh, probably.
I'm
sure they do. Yeah,
I don't know that they do. Let's have a look. Let's look that up.
The climate's not that much different to Sydney, Canberra, Melbourne sort of thing. Doesn't get as cold, obviously, but it's not that much different, surely.
Wombats in Perth. I don't know. I mean, there's a giant desert.
This feels like a stupid question, but I'm actually curious to know what the answer is.
Okay. Okay. Are there wombats in WA? The southern hairy-nosed wombat is distributed patchily in areas of semi-arid shrubland and mallee in southeastern corner of Western Australia. So, yeah, they just are.
Yeah, well, that's the part where all the humans live.
I thought they lived in the southwestern part.
Well, south somewhere part.
Hang on, let me look this up. Where is Western Australia?
Geography 101. Right, tune in next week for whatever we're going to teach you next. We'll be teaching you English.
If I gave you $1,000 to name 3 places north of Perth that are in Western Australia, could you?
I've
got 2. I've got 2 of them I know for sure, and a third one is kind of sketchy.
I could, but I've gone blank now, so I've missed out on the grand.
Okay, here's what I've got. Shark Bay.
See, I was going to say that one, but I thought it was actually closer to, just on the north side of Perth, not as in a place outside of Perth.
I'm pretty sure. I thought it was halfway up the coast a little bit.
Okay.
I had Shark Bay, Broome, and Christmas Island.
Oh, dear.
I mean, it's outside of the immigration zone, but I'm sure that it's probably in some way linked to WA.
Yeah, the dotted line just clips the coastline.
Yeah.
It's like, damn it, so close.
If you pushed
there
me
you go.
further, I wouldn't have a clue. I would have no idea.
Yeah, no, I'm not great on that.
Yeah. So that was interesting. There's also a lot of talk this week that there's definitely going to be another New Zealand team. The Warriors coach this week come out and said that he didn't think it was time for another New Zealand-based team. So
he kind of would say that though. Now that the Warriors are finally getting massive crowds, they've got huge support behind them, and they will be a little bit concerned about another team coming to New Zealand and start cannibalising one another.
Yeah,
so I get that they're a bit concerned about that.
I think that as long as it's far enough away, like if it's in Christchurch or Wellington, I think that they'll be fine. I don't think they'll really feel it too much, but there will be that pressure on signing juniors, which they obviously don't want, and that's a big part of it.
Look, I think that the other problem we've got at the moment is if we start bringing in too many teams too soon, it's going to stretch the talent out a bit thin.
There is that, but I feel as though you could bring in a second New Zealand team and it wouldn't be too much of an issue, because I think you're honest to goodness going to get a couple of the rugby union players from over in New Zealand sign up, and then you've got the local New Zealand. I mean, New Zealand produces as much talent as just about anywhere.
Especially when you throw in the Pacific Islands around them.
Exactly, yeah. And they'll probably sign like players from all over the place, you know. When you get PNG, I think it's a little bit of a similar thing where your bulk of your players are going to be PNG players. So I don't think that's too much of a draw, or a drain, I should say, on the player pool. Perth is a bit different. They're going to be a bit of a drain on the player pool, but we've got the players. Maybe Lockie Galvin can be the first Perth drop bear or the first Perth wombat.
Well, see, this is what I'm thinking. Okay, if every team has 30 players, right?
Yeah.
This is pretty standard. And there's 20 clubs, that's 600 players.
Yeah.
Right. 2023, that whole season had 501.
Yeah.
And we constantly hit just on 500 players for the last several years. Obviously, we've had less teams, but we haven't been getting to the point where we're creating excessively more players.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem we've got at the moment is those players who are either, they've gone past their best in their career, but they've got a few years left in them. They're not going to another club. They're going to England.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the rookies they're spending more time in the lower grades, as they should, to make sure that they're NRL ready. You'll probably find some of those guys might just get pushed through and persevered with, which can lead to a lot of hit and miss with that sort of stuff. But, it's going to be tricky to see how it all works. You're going to find that the clubs that have got those big development areas like Penrith and the West Tigers and the Roosters, they're gonna lose a bunch of players, those sort of things. So it is a good time too for the NRL to start looking at, maybe not so much compensation, but maybe a reward or some sort of thing in the cap. And it doesn't have to be huge. You don't want it to be skewed too nastily, but something like that for any club, for any player maybe 1% or 2% or something. It's just some small figure like this, right, of a player's salary. So say for example, with Lua, okay, 2% of whatever his salary is at the West Tigers is a credit back on the Panthers salary cap, because he came from the Panthers development area. You know what I mean? Something. I'm not saying this is a tried and true. I'm just spitballing ideas here, but something like that. That way, the club that did the developing gets a little something back in the cap, but it's not too much to make them massively over the cap. or, have massively extra on the cap. It's just a little bit extra.
I tell you what, I would guess that if you did that for the Panthers, it would actually be a pretty outrageous amount. Like there's every single team just about has at least one Panthers junior.
It's crazy when you actually look at it. There's quite a few former West Tigers players at a lot of other clubs as well.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, the Panthers are using their salary cap very, very intelligently.
Yeah, that's true.
You give all that extra credit to the West Tigers. They go, oh, let's get Gareth Ellis back.
Yeah. So dumb. Then there needs to be something. But I think if we bring in the Perth team in particular, I guess you could do it with every team. Like what they should do is go to every other NRL team and say, you can protect your top 25 players, or you can protect 25 players, but those other 5 players are open to be negotiated with the expansion club. And if they sign a deal with them, you got to let them go. It's just how it is. And that would allow teams in the NRL, because most people will think, that'll be 5 worst players or 5 juniors or 5 least experiences. But it could be someone like, say, for instance, the Roosters obviously want to get rid of Brandon Smith. They might put him in that 5 players. So
I suppose it's an easy way to get out of a big contract that you might want to get rid of as well.
Exactly. You might see John Bateman in there. Players like that. So
I don't want to do that to Perth.
But, in Perth, there'll be players that they can sign to that. What if, imagine this, the Melbourne Storm put Pappenhausen in their 5? It sounds silly, but they've got a young dude there ready to rock and roll. Pappenhausen keeps getting injured. So it's not necessarily going to be like the 5, so-called worst players at each club. There's going to be some teams that are smart, and they're going to put players available that are pretty handy players just because they want out of those deals. And those players will end up at the expansion clubs. So I would like to see that happen when it does kick in. You can't do it as an expansion draft because we don't do drafts in rugby league for good reason. But being able to negotiate with those 5 players from each club, it'd be a huge way to get an expansion team in. And I think the way that you also smooth it over with the Players Association is you just say, hey, your group is going to go up by 30 extra professional members at least. That's not even counting the lower grades. And there's going to be at least $10 million more that's available for professional rugby league players. And because of that, they'll be like, yes, they'll say yes to whatever.
Do you reckon a Perth team might be able to entice Kalen Ponga to come home?
Would the Knights put Kalen Ponga in there?
That's WA. They might just go, okay, first signing, we've got 10 million in the cap. Kalen, how much do you want?
If the Knights were smart, and they're not, they would say, you should take that, Kalen. But they would, knowing the Knights, they would probably double his salary, and then he won't play for 50% of the games. But would the Manly Seagulls put Tom Trbojevic on that list?
I don't know that they've got a fullback to cover him. I mean,
would you rather pay, say, $1 million between Trbojevic and his backup to cover the full 26-game season? Or would you rather not pay that much money and just have a fullback that plays every game?
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a tricky one.
I don't think it is. I would rather a dude that is there every week.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Especially for a guy that has not done anything in a finals game.
This is true.
He hasn't. It's crazy.
It's true.
He has 0 big finals moments.
And look, the one other good thing too that the WA team has got is they do have a pretty good junior nursery and a big sort of development area as well. Mm-hmm. So long term, they're probably going to be a much more viable option than the Dolphins.
The Dolphins?
Mm.
Did you see the thing the other day that the Dolphins are one of the most financially strong clubs in the NRL?
Oh, I'm not talking about financial. I'm talking about junior development areas.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I think they'll be very good at not just tapping into what's around Perth, but they'll probably even tap into Northern Territory as well.
Yeah, they've got
the untapped potential over there is insane.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they manage to do that. I also wonder if once we get a Perth team in, whether all of a sudden there'll be a huge amount of momentum to get Adelaide in, because it'll just be so obvious. You know what I mean? Like we're basically flying over Adelaide to get to Perth, and there'll be a really good business case for just stopping and playing in Adelaide a lot more. I wouldn't be shocked if that happened too. But sorry, go on.
It wouldn't shock me, and I'm not saying this will happen or that it should, but the media will go for it, and that is, should the next club be South Africa? The media will do it.
Yeah. And anybody that knows anything about South Africa right now knows that, like, you couldn't have anything there at the moment. They're in a terrible state right now, South Africa. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this all changes. Peter Volantes has said he wants to have a 20-team competition by the time he leaves the role. And as expansionists, I know you and me are happy about that. And it's all happening pretty quickly. And honestly, I'm happy about that too, because I think the game can handle it. But I tell you what, that 21st team and the 22nd team, I mean, it's going to kind of have to be Adelaide and then maybe a third New Zealand team, hey?
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see.
We will. So what else has been going on?
That's it, really. We had the news today, and I don't know much about it, that Jared Hayne has had his current conviction quashed on appeal, and they have said that it could go to trial for a fourth time, which I would be shocked if that happened. So that come out today. I don't know much about any of it. I just heard that it had happened. I didn't really look into it or anything. So that was causing a lot of angst on Twitter today, because basically any time anybody said anything about it, they were getting argued with by somebody else about it. So that was something of note that happened. And there's not been a huge amount outside of post-Origin stuff.
There was one other thing last week. Apparently, allegedly, Paul Kent down 21 schooners.
Yeah, that's a lot.
It is for a small bloke.
Yeah. Well, that's why the tree kicked his ass.
So the fact that he was still standing, kind of, shows you that he probably does that on a rather regular enough occasion for his body to be able to handle that to some degree.
Yeah. I know you haven't been. Yeah, you're not a drinker, right?
No.
I know that I was with some family members of mine. We basically decided to get together and go out for a night. It was me and there was two other male family members of mine, and we went out to Ridley Hill RSL, and the plan was to get hammered and play the poker machines. That was it. And I remember the moment that I disappeared, and I was at that club for another 5 or 6 hours, and I don't remember any of it. But then that was when they had the lockdown laws where they would close the bar every half an hour, and we were ordering. I was told this, I don't remember it, ordering drinks for those half an hour breaks. So we were slamming them before, then getting more, slamming them in that half hour, then getting them more when the bar opened again. I don't know how much I drank that night, but I can tell you the next day I thought I was dying.
That's a fair bit of drinking that you got into there.
Yeah.
Did you come into any clash with any sort of flora or fauna?
No, but I honestly, if I did, I don't remember it. I don't remember anything.
That's why you're a shit journalist.
True. I was told that there were winnings made on poker machines, and there was a lot of like telling everyone to get stuffed because we'd won and stuff like that. I can't remember any of it at all. But I remember the moment I disappeared. I do remember that.
Okay. I was going to say, were you angry at any stage?
I don't know.
Let's just go with yes. Let's just go with yes because that seems standard.
I literally don't know. I'm not angry. I'm not angry. I have asked, it's funny because recently I've asked my friends, like, who I have had drinks with, I've said, like, describe what it's like when I'm drunk. And they've all said, you are super funny, you find everything hilarious, and it's just good fun. And which is really nice to hear because you'd hate for it to be like, oh, man, LeagueFreak's drinking again. Like, here we go. You don't want to be that person. You want to be the person where it's like, you should have a drink. You go on, have a drink. And so I tend to be one of those people, thankfully.
Yeah. No, it's been I think I've only heard you talking once or twice when drunk. Yeah. You just all, I love you, Zor.
I do get a bit like that sometimes too.
Speaking of laughable and drunk sounding.
Yes.
Paul Crawley. He seems to think that Benji Marshall's a failure and Brad Arthur is a solution to the Tigers.
Yeah, if I was Paul Crawley, I'd think something like that too.
Yeah.
It's funny seeing the way they're attacking Benji Marshall and you sort of will like to get them all and say, what were your expectations here? Like, what is it that Benji Marshall's not doing, or what are the Tigers not achieving that you thought they were going to achieve? Because they're one of the least talented teams in the NRL and making do with the squad that was thrown together by idiots. And, like, this was expected.
Yeah. I just find the absolute audacity that this absolute charlatan of a journalist has to criticize someone for not doing their job good enough.
Yeah.
Of all the people. And, people, the majority of rugby league fans knew that the rebuild that the Tigers had to embark upon was over a decade overdue, was going to take some time if they're going to do it properly, and it needed to be done properly. And many would say that, Benji shouldn't have been the guy at the helm to start this rebuild. And initially, he wasn't. Tim Sheens was the guy who was supposed to be giving Benji a 2-year apprenticeship to show him everything he needs to learn and, guide him around to show him the sort of things he needs to be in charge on, this sort of stuff. But Tim then got the shits, probably because he was, not being successful and not turning the club around. And he probably thought he was some sort of super coach when he's not. So he just went, I'm going now. And just for the second time with the Tigers, left the club in a worse shape than when he started there, which was hard to do the first time around, given where he picked that team up after the Terry Lamb years. But he just tapered off so badly, and the way everything was set up there wasn't great. Evidenced by the fact that no finals since Sheens left. So, a good coach would have made sure that the run that they started in 2010, 2011 continued. Instead, it went worse and worse there. And he came back and didn't make things any better either, and just made it harder for Benji. And for anyone, journo-wise anyway, who doesn't know how the game works or doesn't actually watch the game, like Paul Crawley, if they want an article, they will just go, oh, who's on the bottom of the ladder? Let's tell them they should sack their coach.
Yeah,
because
pretty much.
They all do this thing about like their perverted desire to have men lose their jobs in rugby league world just so they've got an article to write for a week is sickening and most obviously fucking stupid and childish, and they all need to either start doing their job properly or fucking retire.
Yeah.
There. How's about the journos retire instead of the coaches get the sack? That'd be nice.
I saw a funny article this week, and it was in the Sydney Morning Herald. Didn't read it, but it was from Andrew Webster, and that headline was, and it was something like, in the last few weeks, my opinion of Latrell Mitchell has changed, and it should for New South Wales as well. And it's like, stop everyone. Andrew Webster thinks that Latrell Mitchell should be picked. That's the big news today. It's like the fucking ego, man.
Noted analyst.
Yeah. It's so silly.
So I was looking here. I did some stats on the Tigers' defence.
Yep.
Right? Since 2020.
Yep.
So in 2020, they conceded 25.25 points per game, which was up 5 points per game on the previous year.
Mm-hmm.
That's a whack.
Yeah.
2021, it went up by another 4.5 points per game, so just under 30.
Jesus.
2022 came down by 1.4. 2023 came down by 0.16. This year it's down 1.13.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the best the defence has been since 2020. The best in 4 years. And that's after they've conceded almost 100 points in the last 2 weeks. So it was in the 26s after that. So it would have been competing with 2020.
Mm. It's look,
Every coach
I'm
the Tigers has had has struggled to get that defence. The only coach that's been able to get the defence remarkably improving has been Ivan Cleary.
Yeah, but what's he ever done?
Well, I mean, at the time when he was at the Tigers, absolutely zero. He's a nobody. All he ever did was have a nap.
It's look, I'm watching these Tigers games and I'm seeing much more structure than they've had for many years in attack and defence. I'm seeing younger players come into the side and actually show a little bit of something, which is interesting and something you don't normally see out of the Tigers. And they've also got Api Coruscant, who's the best hooker in the game, win, lose or draw. And then they've got Luai coming next year. So, like, I'm seeing things that are an improvement. And you and me talked about how they were going to get worse before they get better. And it's like they started on the back foot this year. That was the whole point. This, no matter who took over this year, and it just happened to be Benji Marshall, they were on a hiding to nothing because they were going to have to make do for an entire year before they could do anything with a team or an idea or a goal that they could actually form themselves. They were making do with basically Tim Sheen's idea and Potato's idea of a team this year. And so I look at this team and I think Benji Marshall's done I know the results aren't there, but I think that he has made improvements that will set them up going forward. And we'll see. Like, you don't know yet. We're halfway through his first season as a coach. We don't know yet. You know, you've got to give him time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I don't think he's done much wrong given what his coaching ability started as. And what he had to work with.
Mm-hmm.
Find me a coach in their rookie year who's never coached in the NRL before do what he's done with what he's got. I think he's been pretty impressive, to be honest.
Yeah, and look, you can see when a coach comes in and after a while, like, the team becomes a disaster and you're like, oh, man, this is a problem. They're definitely not there.
No.
So I don't understand the attacks on him. And it's been from before. Keep in mind, it's from before he coached a single game. They were writing articles saying, I don't think he's a coach. And that was before he'd coached a game. So
condemned him for not working overtime, condemned him for going on a holiday, condemned his missus because she defended him for going on holiday.
Yep.
And that is petulant behaviour by the media, to be going after him for going on a break when the team has a bye, and for going after him because he doesn't do overtime. Somehow meaning that made him some sort of a lesser of a coach or some sort of garbage. They're completely ignoring the fact, or not the fact. They're completely ignoring all the facts. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
And that's why you just it sucks that we talk about what they're saying, because they just dominate the media as they do.
I don't take in much of it at all. I see it in passing a lot, and I saw somebody posting a clip that Media Watch on the ABC did about the pre-Origin talk in the newspapers. I didn't see any of it, right? And so apparently all the pre-talk of the Origin was that you had Benny Elias and Mark Carroll in the papers all the time saying to take out the pretty boy Reece Walsh and smash his head in, and he wears nail polish and all this stuff.
Blue eyes.
Yeah, and then when he did get knocked out in that game, the back page said it's a knockout or something like that, and a picture of him out cold. And I couldn't believe it. I was like, that's fucked. And I didn't see any of it because I don't take it in. And then it's funny, a couple of hours later, I saw a fan that was, it might have been a Parramatta fan from memory, and they were saying that they find it really hard to enjoy the game because of the way the media carries on. And I didn't message them back, but I thought, why would you keep consuming that media if it was taking your enjoyment out of the game?
Because it infiltrates into the commentary, so you can't even watch the game without hearing that garbage, especially on Channel 9.
See, I hardly watch Channel 9. I'm always watching Fox.
I know, but Origin's on there. That's the thing. The majority of the people, the majority of the casual audience are tuning in to watch Origin, and that's what they're getting smashed with, was that garbage.
Yeah.
And it's in the Sydney media, man. It's just, it's all over the place there.
Yeah, but it's crazy because people hear all of the stuff that we talk about footy on this podcast. It's not like I feel like we're getting all of the things that are happening in the game. It's not like we're sitting here and we're going 2 weeks later, oh man, Brad Arthur's not the Parramatta Eels coach anymore. We're pretty on what's going on. But all of this other stuff, this sound that the media just creates over shit, a lot of that is not getting through. And other people need to just tune that out, because it really, I can see where it would make your enjoyment of the game far less, because you're just watching everything through a prism that has been created for you of just negativity and hatred, and everyone's terrible and everyone should lose their jobs, and the refs are bent, and the teams that win are getting all the good calls and the teams that lose are getting screwed over, and that's what they put out there. And then you watch, but if you tune that out and you watch the games, you just get what you want, which is the games of footy, and that's it.
Yeah, and they do talk about the low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
Because that's the easy option.
Well, it's their business model, yeah. You say something terrible, everyone sends it around saying, look at this terrible thing, and all of a sudden all their metrics are fantastic because everyone's done what they want them to do.
Now, speaking of dumb comments.
Yes.
Mr. Gutherson.
Yes.
Now, I watched this game. I didn't see this bit at the end. I watched the entirety of this. It was the only match I'll watch this weekend. And I've got to say, the Bulldogs constantly returning to the well on their right-hand side, the Eels' left-hand side. created so many opportunities for them. I thought, as much as the scoreline was close, the Dogs completely outplayed Parramatta in this game. They had, 4 or 5 try-scoring opportunities that they threw away, the Dogs did.
Mm-hmm.
If half of those stuck, they win that game comfortably.
I had the game on in the background, and my feeling for it was that the Bulldogs had them covered when they wanted to. Like it seemed as though Parramatta were just scratching and biting and kicking their way to get the lead, but the Bulldogs always felt like they had them covered and they could get the job done.
Yeah, and look, when they needed points, they just go, let's just go to the right side again.
Yeah,
and Crichton just owned that game.
Mm.
Oh man,
I love seeing people going like, "Wow, Crichton's a really good centre. He might be the best centre in the game." It's like, yeah,
he's a really good defender.
yeah. Wow, he's such a leader. He really knows what it takes to win.
Oh man, he was so damn good in this game.
Mm.
I've watched a few of the Dogs games this year, and he's had those moments where, he's playing good footy, but then he'll have a 10-minute period where you just go, did he go off the field? He's just gone quiet.
Mm.
But this game, he was on it from start to finish, and he did not give up. I'm not saying he gave up in the past, but I'm talking about he was unrelenting in what he was doing to Parramatta in attack and defence. Just every time the Dogs were on attack, he was around. Every time Parramatta were trying to do something or they got close to scoring, he was there denying them. He was just constantly everywhere all the time. It was just a glorious performance from him, man. It was brilliant.
Yeah, and he's got that Panthers thing in him when there's a few of the Panthers players that have it where it's like, doesn't matter who has the ball, you're not getting around him. You're not getting through him.
No.
You're not stepping inside of him. Like, the most you can hope is that you maybe put on a move, but he tackles you around the legs and, like, you're locked up. So many of those players that can just shut you down completely, and there's nothing you can do about it. And it's like they've got magnets on them or something. It's like outrageous. And, he's fantastic. I've been saying that he's the best centre in the world for a number of years now. But it's funny to see other people being like, wow, he's really good. It's like, yeah, I know.
But yeah, Gutherson had a crack at the referee. I didn't quite hear what he said or what he was going on about, so I don't know the context of it. But I know that you've heard it. Yeah,
he was going at the referee during the game, and then like a few minutes after the game as well. And he said along the lines, and I'm paraphrasing quite a bit here. I'm sure I could find the audio, but paraphrasing it, he basically said that the referee knows that this decision is going to be found to be wrong, and that he cost Parramatta the game. Which I thought, first of all,
but what play was this in regards to?
There was an obstruction play which I did not get to see. I believe that Annesley has come out and said it was the correct call by the referee. Which, what does that fucking count for? I don't know. But all I can tell you is that whenever I saw that the Dogs were on the march and they were going to go into score, all I saw was like a Bulldogs player crossing the line and Clint Gutherson sliding across the ground on his ass, not being in the right place.
And standing up with his hands in the air.
Yeah.
What are you going to call that?
Clint Gutherson, how old is he now? Like he's 28, 29?
Yeah, 28, 29 months old, something like that. He does a lot of whining for a 28-month-old child.
He does. But like this is a guy that has never won anything as a senior rugby league player. And there's a reason for that, because he's so busy pissing and moaning and whining and making excuses for himself that, he's not focusing on the problems that him and his team has. Can you imagine if the Parramatta Eels had Dane Laurie at fullback? They'd be such a better team.
Well, yeah, an actual fullback. They had Adam Dewey at fullback.
Yeah.
He can play fullback.
Yeah, why not? But it's like you've got this guy in the team who thinks he's the leader, and he's not. That's not what leadership is. And to be whinging at the referee, I would have fined him and banned him for 2 games. I really would have. I thought it was bringing the game into disrepute. I thought it was weak of the NRL not to do anything like that to him. It's outrageous, his comments, and I just think it shows his mindset and why he's never won anything.
Absolutely. I saw him blowing up at the referee afterwards. I think it might have been a video I saw on Instagram. I was looking on the fucking nerve of this bloke to be, abusing the referee like that. Just this is the flow-on effect, in my view, of being allowed to challenge a referee's decision in the first place. This is why I didn't like it to start with. It just gives players this false feeling that they can criticise the referees all the time.
Well, look, you and me talked about the way that you address a referee, and Cameron Smith probably talked to referees about as much as anybody, but the way that he did it was very, very different. He was never
calm and respectful.
Yep, and he was never condescending. By the way, a guy that had done everything a number of times over. So it's like he's talking from a position of authority in that sense. But he would talk to the referee about the situation that had occurred. It was never personal to that referee. And he was always very, very respectful with how he always did it.
And here's the other key point too, before you go on to the next bit, is as much as a lot of people would criticise Cameron Smith for doing this, it's also worth noting he didn't get one single decision overturned.
That's very true. That's very, very true.
So it's not like he was manipulating the referees to get the decision changed or to change the way the referee officiated the game in the future. A lot of people would probably challenge that. No, he probably made them alert of something that they missed or that they were being inconsistent upon. That's not making them change the way they do things to suit the Storm. That's making them be consistent, which is a different beast altogether.
Yeah. And whereas Gutherson, and he does this to his own teammates as well, he's very condescending with the way that he approaches people on the field. And we've talked about his teammates must hate it. And he does it to the referees as well. And you can see, they just tune him out because it's just whinging at them. There's a difference between engaging a referee and just whinging at them. And all he does is whinge at them. And see him after the game. The result is done. The whistle's blown. The result is on the board. And he's in a team that's in the lower half of the ladder. They've just been beaten by a team that's above them on the ladder. And he's there suggesting that the referee cost them the game. I thought the referee handled it really, really classy, because if I was that referee, I would have said, did you not miss any tackles? Did you not give away any stupid penalties? I didn't see you wrapping up the ball carrier when they were crossing the line, Gutho. But he didn't. He kept his mouth shut because he's a professional referee. It's a shame that the professional fullback in that situation didn't also shut his fucking mouth.
Yeah, I thought Peter Goff actually had a very good game as the referee in that one, and he gave Gutherson far too much respect in the end there for given the way he spoke to him. He should have just went, Clint, I don't need to be spoken to like this, and then just walked away from him.
Yeah. And look at when there's disrespect to a referee, I don't think I've ever seen a player sent to the sin bin for disrespecting the referee and thought to myself, oh, that's terrible. I wish that didn't happen. I always think yeah, you fucking send him, man. You show him who's the boss. So
exactly right.
Well,
here's an interesting one for you. Gutherson's off contract next year.
Well, Parramatta signed to a new 5-year deal because that's what they do.
Well, speaking of, apparently a bunch of coaches or something like that in other codes have said that Parramatta should sign Trent Barrett on as their coach for the long-term future.
Who said that?
Wasn't it some rugby union guy or something like that? I'm sure I saw that somewhere today.
I know I said it last week, and I had so many people messaging on Twitter, saying that's just cruel and that don't do that to us and things like that. Whenever I see the list of coaches, though, that Parramatta is supposedly looking at, I honestly start thinking, like, should they just sign Trent Barrett?
Here we go. Coaching Giants Paul Roos from the AFL and Steve Hansen, who I believe might be a rugby union coach, have endorsed Parramatta interim coach Trent Barrett to take on the job full time.
Yeah. I would like to hear some rugby league players' wives' opinion first before those two. And you know what I think about rugby league player wives' opinions.
Oh, this is true. Well, Michael Maguire ruled himself out of coaching Parramatta. Even he's just looked at and went, yeah, you know what? I'd rather be at the West Tigers than coaching Clint Gutherson.
Yeah. I honestly thought that was very smart. And he did it pretty early too. Like when his name started coming up, he was like, nope, I am out. I am very, very out. Thank you.
So they could be very well about to get Trent Barrett long term.
I hope so.
I'm sorry, Parramatta fans, but if you do sign Trent Barrett, all I can say is I'm glad you guys are no longer being you're no longer being the West Tigers of the oh, sorry, my team's no longer being the West Tigers of the competition. You guys are. That'll be great to see for a change.
Yeah, it's a rough one. It's a rough one. If they sign like Gutherson to a new 5-year deal, and then like Barrett to a new 5-year deal, it would be super Parramatta.
It would. How old is he?
Who, Gutho?
He's almost 30. Yeah, he's almost 30. He's about to turn 30 this year.
Yeah, I said 28, 29.
I would let that contract run out and sign Talangi.
Oh, 100%.
For 10 years.
Yeah.
That kid is a fucking gun, man.
Well, when he was in their side, it was just a different sort of danger that you got from that fullback position. And keeping in mind, he's only played a few games. So, but there was that danger that when he was in that back line or he got the ball, I was like, oh man, you've got to deal with this guy right now. And that's what Parramatta have missed this entire time.
This is true. Well, look, there's a lot of Parramatta players coming off contract at the end of next year.
Mm-hmm.
So that means that Trent Barrett's going to have a war chest.
Oh, shit.
So it'll be good seeing John Bateman playing for Parramatta.
The John Bateman era at Parramatta.
Look, he's got a good 5 years left in him.
I wonder. I've been thinking a lot about Mitch Moses lately. I wonder how it all pans out for him. We're going to see, but like I think he's got to the point now where he's got to the point in his career where injuries have, unfortunately for him, impacted him at the time when he should be at the peak of his career. Mm-hmm. And
he's now going to be possibly a bit limited for options outside of Parramatta as far as contracts moving forward.
And he's
probably just going to be best suited to stay there because he's probably going to get his best offer financially and years-wise by staying where he is.
Yeah, and the thing is too, like, he probably thought he would be in a team that was going to be challenging for, a few years at least, and it's just not been the case. And you add all of that together, like, I wonder if we see, like, say a 31-year-old Mitch Moses down the track decides that he wants to play somewhere where he can try and get a premiership. Like he might end up moving, say, and I'm just tossing this up, completely tossing it up. Like, what would he move into that Adam Reynolds role at the Broncos? Something like that, where he's like, look, I had this whole career sort of planned out. It was all going well, and then it wasn't really quickly. Knowing how quick it can all sort of go bad, and then there's a chance here to step into a team that's really good. And does he take that opportunity, maybe for less money? I wonder if he gets to that point in his career.
It's an interesting one because he's going to turn 30 around the finals time this year. So if he's going to make that decision, it's going to have to be on his next contract. I probably would think that he'll just stay put because I think it's going to be the best option for him, length of career wise and financially. I think Parramatta would pay him more than everybody else, and they'd be inclined to put him on a 3-year deal, whereas I think every other club might just go 1 or 2 years, just on the age and the fact he's had a few injuries in the last 2 years.
Yeah, I agree. What is scary for him in that situation is that he's in a team that's in decline. They just are. Like, you just got to look at their results and where they've come from and where they are now. And, like, Nathan Cleary's 26. Like, he's coming into his prime.
Yeah.
Which is, it's crazy. Like, and when you think DCE is probably got a couple more good years in him, although he looks like he's probably got 10 good years in him the way he's playing.
Oh, he's phenomenal, man.
He's amazing. He's so amazing. But it's interesting that, like, there's going to be a very, very big difference between what Nathan Cleary is as the premier halfback in the game and then the next best guy.
Yeah.
Which is, it's kind of interesting.
I won't make it all misery for Parramatta because they do have the makings of a a pretty good spine. Like, you think long term they've got Talangi at fullback and Dylan Brown at 6. If Moses hangs around there for another 4 or 5 years, they just need a decent hooker.
Yeah, it's solid building blocks without question.
And Brandon Hands is the hooker at the moment. He's reliable enough, but if you can get yourself a creative.
Former stable hand. If you look up a video, Mr. Hands and Horses, put that into Google. Yeah, really interesting videos.
All right, I'll have to check that out. But yeah, he's if they get that sorted out and get themselves an actual coach, they've got the makings of a pretty good side already. They've got a fair few aging players in the pack, which they do need to recycle through pretty quickly. You want to kind of when you go and do that, you don't want to do it in bits and pieces when they're all getting around the same age. You want to just cut them all loose in the space of 1 or 2 seasons and bring in the new team as quickly as possible. Take the hit on the ladder for those 1 or 2 years, and then the good times will roll very quickly after that. I don't think it's going to take much to rebuild them and get them back being really competitive again. So that's something that might be able to get Moses to stay for, as I said, 3, 4, 5 more years.
The problem
he's got 5 years in him.
The problem I see with that is that goes against absolutely everything Parramatta has done. Like, they don't cut players loose. They hold on to you and hold on to you and hold on to you.
It's crazy because they had that window of the premiership window there, and it was slim. And just as they were looking like, they're genuinely going to be a chance here, they went and made some one genuinely bad trade when that was with their hookers. Ruined everything. Everything.
But I also think that, like, you can look at it from the point of view as, like, they had that one very, very good season. And I know it wasn't just the one season, but, like, they had that one season that stands out above all the other seasons. How did they go around that? And it's like they've gone okay around that, really, is their best results. And, going okay is okay. But I think that one standout season, they thought that was going to be the norm, and it hasn't. It just hasn't been for them. And that was the peak of a lot of them players' careers. Like, Sevo at his best. Like, all their forwards at their very best. There was a lot of players at the best, at the peak of their careers, right there and then. And now they're not. And look where they are on the ladder.
Yep. It's a very Parramatta thing.
Yeah, it kind of is, isn't it?
Yeah, they've been doing it for many, many decades.
It's interesting to know that Moses will end up being like probably their most successful halfback since Sterling, especially if he stays there for, another contract or so. And they've needed that for a long time. They've needed that stability at halfback for a very long time.
And yeah, now that they've got it, they don't know what to do with it.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's basically what's happened.
Just sign Trent Barrett. Just do it for us.
Oh, look, they're going to. We're going to have all the Trent Barrett stats available to us. They're going to be amazing.
Going to be so good.
Should we look at the upcoming round of footy?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let me find my. I did a few stats as I usually do when I get bored.
Oh, by the way, we've got a couple of emails too.
Oh, we've got emails.
Yeah,
we're going to have to get through those as well. We've got plenty of time.
Yeah, you bring up the games. I'll bring up the emails.
All right, I got the stats here. Here we go. All right. So first up, Thursday night, Sharks versus Dolphins. I'll go through the stats here. The Dolphins are yet to win a game in Sydney. They've played just 3 games there so far, and they were all last year. And Cronulla have won 23 of their last 31 home matches in the regular season.
I tipped the Sharks in this one. I don't know. I'm not confident about it. And if you look at things like they should, the Dolphins should win this because the Sharks generally don't win against top 8 teams. But I don't know. I just thought that I just tipped the Sharks. I just had a bit of a feeling about them.
I think we found with the Sharks this year that they have been performing better when they've been without one of their 2 halves.
Mm-hmm.
And they've had quite a few games already this year where that's been the case. So they seem to be doing a lot better in that sense. I'm just going to see how they are going against top 8 sides at the moment. Because I don't think they're doing anywhere near as bad as they were last year.
No, they're not. Well, they beat the Storm. I think last year they didn't beat anyone, did they?
Well, it was a bit of a furphy last year. So this year they've had 7 games against top 8 sides and they've won 6 of them.
Okay.
So they beat Canberra when Canberra were 3rd. They beat the Cowboys when they were 4th. They beat Canberra again when they were 7th. They beat the Storm when they were 2nd. They beat the Roosters when they were 5th. They lost to the 3rd place Panthers, and then they beat the 5th place Broncos.
See, that's good. That's really solid.
Yeah. Last year, I know they were what people were doing last year was they were talking about how the Sharks performed against the teams that were in the top 8 at the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I think that was worked out they had one win out of 10 games or something like that.
Yeah.
So it looks bad. But when you actually look at, what ladder position the team was at the time the game was played,
mm-hmm.
that's the one I go on because that's your better indicator of form.
Mm-hmm.
So last year they had, 9 games against top 8 sides. Still not great, but they won 3 of 9. It wasn't as atrocious as 1 out of 11.
Yeah.
Still not good enough, but it wasn't as atrocious as they were making out.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they've definitely fixed that up this year. They're a hell of a lot better now. So yeah, I'm going to go with the Sharks on that one. I think the home ground advantage does help them a fair bit, especially when you consider how poor the Dolphins are on the road.
Yeah.
Next, Raiders versus Cowboys. The Cowboys have won 8 of their 23 games at GIO Stadium. However, all 8 of those have been in the last 16 games there.
Oh, wow. I went with the Raiders, and the way I'm thinking is they're at home. starting to get cold, so it's going to be friggin' freezing down there in Canberra. Imagine flying from Townsville where it's nice and then you end up in Canberra. The Cowboys are going to hate themselves for choosing this profession, because it means that they have to spend like at least 24 hours in Canberra, and nobody wants to do that. Like nobody. So I've tipped the Raiders because the Cowboys won't want to be there.
What if I throw this one at you?
Okay.
The Cowboys have won 5 of their last 6 games against the Raiders, including all of the last 4.
Yeah, I'm still tipping Raiders.
All right. I'm going to go.
I'm very big on the Rapana factor.
Okay. I do remember you saying you had him tipped for the Dally M this year.
Yeah. There's like watching Jordan Rapana play is like watching a car crash.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
That's basically it.
That's it. Yeah, I've got nothing else to add. It's just like watching a car crash.
I'm going to go with the Cowboys here, but I don't know what the score's going to look like. It could be a mess.
Yeah.
As far as, like something like 32-26 or something like that.
You know what? I think the Cowboys are soft. And I've been saying it all year.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the Raiders have the forwards that they can go at least straight up the middle of the field against this soft Cowboys team.
All right, Rabbitohs versus Broncos.
Ugh.
Brisbane have won 33 of their last 47 games against South, which goes back to 1990.
It sounds worse than it looks.
South needs 17 points to reach 40,000 in their premiership history.
Wow. I tipped the Broncos.
Yeah.
I was going to tip the Rabbitohs just based on Andrew Webster changing his mind on Latrell Mitchell the last couple of weeks, but I thought no.
You're not going against the web.
Nah. I was thinking of it, but then I stopped sniffing glue and I realized that the Broncos are probably going to absolutely wipe the floor with the Rabbitohs.
Tell you what, I am going to go with South on this one.
Why?
They've found their attack in the last 2 weeks, albeit against not so great opposition, but it's done enough to get their confidence up. Mm-hmm. The Broncos do have a few players that are going to be either missing or tired or whatever from Origin and the short turnaround. I don't even know if Reece Walsh is back.
Yeah, I don't know if he's back. He's probably in the team lineups. Let me see if it's got it on here.
But I'm just gonna go on a roughy and pick South.
Tristan Saylor's been named, which is good. I'm glad that they haven't rushed Walsh back.
Yeah, mind you, Saylor didn't have a great game against the Sharks last week either.
He didn't, and he said in the media he was filthy about it. He was very upset about it, so hopefully he can turn that around because he's been really good as a backup fullback for them when they've needed him. So, yeah, I think he'll turn it around against Souths.
He pretty much should. He's one of those players though that can be a bit rocks or diamonds, but I'd be surprised if he has 2 bad games in a row. But we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
Next is the Tigers versus Titans.
I can't wait for this one.
Check this stat, all right?
Okay.
The Tigers have conceded 98 points in their last 2 premiership games, and they have scored 98 points in their last 2 games at Leichhardt Oval.
Wow.
And just for a historical one, the Tigers are going to be resting the number 1 jumper for this match because this is the first time they've played at Leichhardt since Keith Barnes passed away.
Yeah.
So Keith Barnes holds a record for most points scored at Leichhardt Oval with 580, and Tigers coach Benji Marshall is 7th at the venue with 174 points.
Wow, it's a big difference.
Tigers do not have a good record when honouring past players.
No.
But the past players they've had to honour in the past have all been Magpies players.
Yep.
Great players, but they've honoured them poorly. I'm guessing they might get up for this one. They're just a little bit due, and Benji was quite pissed. He's made a few changes, which means there's a bunch of guys who want to prove that they should have been in the team to start with, and I think they'll get up over the Titans. I'm being very, very hopeful here, but I haven't had hope for a while, so it's an interesting feeling.
Yeah, it's always good when you've got hope. I'm going to tip the Titans.
By 50?
I think what will happen is the West Tigers will get out to a 16-point lead. Then the Titans are going to score the next 28 points in a row. And then the Tigers are going to start coming back at them, and the Titans will win by 2 points.
That seems pretty consistent for a Tigers-Titans game.
Yeah.
Next is Warriors versus Storm. The Storm have won 14 games out of 24 in New Zealand.
Wow.
Not bad, but for the Storm, not great.
Yeah. It's probably down on their normal winning percentage, eh?
It is by quite a whack. However, the Storm have won their last 15 games against the Warriors with an average winning margin of 20 points.
Jesus, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Because there was a point there where the Warriors were a bit of a problem for the Storm. And that's still in my head, but it just is not the case.
No. But bugger, I'm going to go Warriors.
Wow. It's going to be a sell.
Streaks have to end at some stage.
That's true. I tipped the Storm. The Warriors, it's a sold-out game once again over there in New Zealand. But yeah, I can't go past the Storm. Like the Storm of the Storm.
Eels v Roosters. Parramatta have won just 5 of their last 20 games against the Roosters. That's since 2009. And the last 6 times these sides met, when the Roosters were placed higher on the ladder, they have won all 6 games on an average score of 39-14.
Jesus.
I'm going the Roosters here by about 40-14.
That would be the sort of Roosters game that we'd get here, and then we'd hear their fans saying, "Oh, we're the premiership favourites," and they're like in 9th place or something. Yeah, I'm going to tip the Roosters. I think the Eels are pretty done this year.
Yep. Manly v Dragons. I like it when you get a stat that goes back a long way.
Yeah.
Since 1966, St George Illawarra and St George Illawarra combined have won just 13 out of 49 games at Brookvale. Their last win coming back in 2017.
Wow.
And Shane Flanagan coached sides have won just 3 of 11 games against Manly. None of them have been back-to-back, and Flano did win his last game against Manly.
Okay. How many of those are in the Asterix eras?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, all of them. Okay.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah. That's fine. That's a legitimate stat.
Yeah.
I'm going to go for the Sea Eagles because they're doing testing for this game.
Testing.
Yeah, so they'll be testing the Flanagan side, so they won't have any sort of advantages. So I'm going for the Sea Eagles.
Okay. Yeah, look, I was going to go for Manly.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they'll clean up here.
Yeah.
And last game, Knights versus Panthers. The Knights have had just 2 wins over Penrith in the last decade.
Jeez.
Round 4 2015 and round 23 2018. And Penrith have won 33 of their last 40 games outside of Sydney.
My God.
I'm going Penrith on this one.
Yeah. It's crazy, the stats for Penrith. The stats for Penrith don't even sound real sometimes, eh?
When you get ones like this, like the one against Manly and the one against the Knights, where it's not just their last 3 or 4 years where they've been really dominant. It's like a decade plus. Okay, this is genuine ownership right here.
Yeah, it's crazy. Believe it or not, I've gone for the Panthers. I think they get Dylan Edwards back for this game, which is going to be handy. Let me see. They've got Edwards back. Brad Schneider comes into the side, he comes into the squad, but I don't think they'll change from Luai and Cole just because it's worked so well. Snyder's also not very good defensively. So who else have they got into the side? I'm just going through it. Alamoti, Mitch Kenny, Sorensen, Luke Garner, Isaiah. So Laurie's gone back to the bench. So I wouldn't be surprised because Liam Martin's on the extended bench, I wouldn't be surprised if he come into the team and Yeah, Mav Guy, this is the sort of game that I would have him playing too, against a lesser team in the Knights, get him some runs into his legs in first grade. But yeah, I mean, how can you go past Penrith? I know that there's one thing that I definitely know out of this game is that everyone hates Jackson Hastings.
Well, and what's that about?
No, you just must be. I don't know. I mean, I'm not there, but is there anybody that likes Jackson Hastings really? Like, he's old. Anybody, anywhere he's been doesn't like him. Anywhere he's going doesn't like him. Something's going on there.
Well, he keeps getting signs. There's got to be something to it.
Yeah, he'll be good in Super League next year, I think.
He might be at Parramatta next year. All right, so we've got some emails.
Yeah, we got some emails. So we got one here from James. The subject is Dragons in form, and he says, "G'day, boys. A solid win for the Dragons over the Tigers. Can Andrew RLP inform us the last time the St. George Illawarra Dragons chalked up 50 in a game?" And he says it feels like it's been quite a while. And also when they last won a game by 42 points or more.
Okay. So
that's
the last time they scored,
what
was it? 50?
50 or 42 points or more.
Okay. Let's have a look here. I am clicking away like crazy.
Excellent. That's what she
said. They haven't done too many 50s. So the last time they scored 50 was against the Broncos in round 13, 2021.
Mm-hmm.
And they've only had 10 scores of 50 in their entire history, or 50 plus.
Yeah.
What was the other one? 42 or more, was it?
Yeah. When did they last win a game by 42 points or more?
Okay, well, they've only done that a few times. So the last time was round 3, 2018, when they beat the Titans 54-8.
Okay.
That was in Toowoomba.
Oh, nice. So there's that one answered. And he said, given the fallout from the Tigers' loss, will Freaky and Andrew RLP commit to putting the podcast ahead of family or whatever comic book toys Freaky considers family? It's probably Luke Skywalker. No, they're not toys. They're fucking high-end collectibles, James, you bastard.
Yeah. I have it on good authority that he sits there and he does the voices for them as he's doing like the little play fights and stuff. Yeah.
Wrong you are.
What was it? Family stuff. Oh yeah, that sometimes happens.
Yeah.
Does what we're doing now count? If we just say we only just received his email literally just 3 minutes ago?
I guess it probably would.
Nailed it.
Should I put down my R2D2 I've been playing with this whole time?
Nah. Keep going.
It's funny what voices. I'm just thinking like what would be the funniest voices that you could do, like from the ones that I've got. But the funniest voice I reckon you could do would be from one that I don't have, which would be Christian Bale's Batman. I don't have him, but it'd just be like, "What are you doing?" Like just how you put on that stupid voice.
Ah, yes.
Swear to me.
All right. Was any other emails?
Yeah, we had one from Marcos, and he says, "Hello, friends. I have a question. How are you doing?"
Reasonable.
Yeah, I'm doing good.
Well, that's the email done. That was good.
Yeah, that was a random one, but we hope that we covered that for you, Marcos. So, yeah. And that's all of our emails that we got this week. So if you want to send an email through, send it through to podcast@leaguefreak.com.
Did he legit have nothing else to ask?
Yeah, that was it. I don't know I don't know if it was a real like email or if he was like expecting like me to email him back. So I don't know. But if you're listening, Marcos, and you want me to email you back, just send me another email and say, hey, can you email me back?
Yeah. Don't be smart asses, all right? Things like that.
Yeah. But yeah, anybody that wants to email, send us any question you like about anything at all. And just remember, they're high-end collectibles. They're not toys. They're not dolls. They're not Barbies. High-end collectibles.
He does say this a lot.
Well, they are high-end collectibles. I buy them from toysbuyingagent.com.
Is there such a thing as low-end collectibles?
That's a good question. What would be a low-end collectible? Would that be like people that collect spoons and stuff, I guess, maybe, or coins? Some coins?
A pen.
Pens.
Look, I've got one of those pens with the 4 colours on it.
Pins? People that collect pins.
No, some pins can be a bit harder to get. They're not as common these days.
I bet I could buy.
I was going to say hats.
Hats, yeah. I'm just thinking. I could buy just about. I reckon I could buy 98% of any of the pins you want for the price of one of these high-end collectibles that I've got sitting here.
That's possibly true.
Yeah. I got a problem.
Yeah. Oh, look. Trust me, I'm really impressed.
By what?
Your high-end collectibles.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. I know sometimes it looks like I'm taking the piss. I'm not. I'm just jealous.
The funny one is that, like, you took the piss out of every single picture I've posted, but then I put my Ninja Turtles on, and you're like, oh, actually, that's really cool.
Yeah, Ninja Turtles are pretty cool.
Yeah. Do you want me to buy you with Donatello?
I didn't mind Donatello. I thought I had this thing when I was a kid growing up where I would just be a fan of all of the characters who everyone else never raved about.
Oh, really?
And I'm finding that my son is doing the same thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well,
like he loves Thomas the Tank Engine, but his favorite train is Gordon.
Gordon's the blue one?
Yeah, he's the blue one, number 4. He's the big one that's always got the shits.
Yeah, he's the giant one. Yeah. Who's the one I like?
He goes the fastest, but he's also the big bossy one.
Yeah, I liked. Obviously, I like Thomas. He is awesome. He was my favorite. But I think I also liked. I think the red one was called James.
Yep, that's all right.
And then there was another. What was the really fast? There was one that was really fast. What was that one?
Gordon was the express one who goes really fast. Are you talking about another one later on?
No, maybe it was Gordon. Because, yeah, there was one that was... Yeah, I think it was Gordon because he was huge, but he was really fast as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's Gordon.
Yeah, little fella likes him. Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. Have you got him into any of the ones you liked when you were a kid, like Transformers or anything like that?
He's starting to get into the Transformers. He likes Bumblebee.
Yeah, Bumblebee's cool. Love Bumblebee.
Yeah. Because he's big on cars, you see, so he likes the fact that the car turns into a robot.
Did you have all of those when you were a kid? Like, it's kind of probably difficult to get them out in the bush, wasn't it?
I think I had 1 or 2.
Yeah.
The common one was always Starscream, the Decepticon plane.
I never had Starscream, hey?
No, look, I've got a few here. I think they're mostly broken from kids playing with them.
Yeah, blame the kids.
I will. They're my high-end collectibles.
Yeah. Oh,
they're sitting in a box somewhere.
You got your bloody Die Hard pop vinyl I got ya?
Yeah, that's still here.
Yeah.
They need to add his family there.
Yeah.
I've got two figurines sitting on the top of my hutch on my computer desk here.
And what are they?
And it's Hans Gruber.
Yeah.
And one of Bluey's dad from the Bluey show.
Okay. I saw a clip on Twitter and it was some girl. You know how they've got these podcasts where they all talk to one another, and it was some girl saying she found Bluey's dad hot, and everyone else was like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" And she went through a list of reasons why she found him hot.
Did anyone say he's a dog?
They did. They pointed that out. She's like, no, hear me out. And she literally had a list of reasons she went straight to about why she just found him hot, which I thought was really weird. So I'll follow her. No, I didn't really.
Going steady.
Yeah. Oh, shit, that's funny.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a bit weird.
Yeah, that was strange. It was strange.
Look, I like him because he just does a lot of standard dad stuff.
Oh, does he?
Most dads do. Like,
yeah.
You know, just fucking around with shit with your kids because you know it's wrong, but you know it also stirs them up a little bit, so they have to correct you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where,
like
you do stuff. Yeah, where they're like, Dad, that's not how you do it.
That's right. It's all that sort of stuff, or you say things the wrong way around, and they're like, "No, it's not like that." I say, why do we always say put on your shoes and socks? You've got to put your socks on first. Why do you say put on your socks and shoes?
Yeah. Basically, trying to break them down day by day is what you're saying.
Eventually, yeah, it's mental disintegration.
Yeah. Well, Yeah. Who better to teach them that than their own parents, I reckon.
Exactly right. Part of the process.
Just wait until like your son's old enough to start playing basketball and you can kick his ass for a good 12 years. It'll be great.
Man, that's going to be the goal. Is just he gets old enough, and then I'm just going to drive the lane and just flatten him.
Yeah. Just like, and when he starts to get old enough where he's a little bit more coordinated, you're just like, technical foul. He's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, look, I'm busy now, mate. I can't play now. On my back.
I retired, undefeated.
Don't give him the satisfaction of victory.
Yeah.
That's probably about 3 years away.
Oh shit, that's funny.
He's gonna lap me when he's 6. But I know it's all going good. It's all going spiffingly well.
Excellent.
Well, we could probably wrap this one up.
Yeah, it's been a good episode. Lots happened. Hey,
there's been a fair bit go on. Yeah. And I've got a bit on. I believe I'm now 61.
Yeah, it's weird how you're aging.
Mate, insanely.
Yeah. You're doing pretty
good. It's funny, my body actually feels the age you keep saying it is. Mentally, though, I'm feeling much younger than my actual age. But yeah, my body's not. It's overlapping. It's gone crazy past.
I just can't wait till we get to the point where people are like, wait a minute, that's weird. Like goes, oh, Andrew, he's 87 today. It's like, what?
I'm sure he was 61 last week.
Yeah.
By the time we get to episode 1000, I'm going to be as old as Moses.
Like Andrew, he's 122 today. Hang on a second. What the fuck?
I'm going for the record, people.
It'd be great.
Absolutely. All right. Well, everybody, thanks for tuning in. Make sure you send us those emails and you check us out on YouTube and all the other socials. Like and subscribe wherever you can. That'd be great. And we'll check you all out next time.
Oh, I've got to press it.
I knew you were going to say that.
Stop recording.